I recently come across some data that makes it very clear to me that 90% of men are stupid. Hear me out. I keep thinking about that Bill Burr joke where he says, if you knew that half the parachutes weren't going to open, would you jump? Well, apparently 90% will. That statistic, 90%, is the number of men who will get married at least one time in the United States today, during our current era. 90% are going to cross that threshold from single and free to being controlled by the state, to having their finances and their lives controlled by a contract that they did not sign, that has complete control over their finances and their life from that point forward. The only thing I can think of is that men aren't really stupid. They're ignorant. And there's a big difference there. Ignorance is just not having been exposed to the information, to not having all the relevant facts to make a good decision. So today, since I'm a man who has been stupid, who has been among the 90%, I was part of the charge of the Light Brigade. I got mowed down by the Cossacks. And now I've come back to tell you why being single is so much better than being married. This is Life 2.0. Let's talk about it. As most of the divorce guys in this channel, on the comments in the community, will testify to, marriage is absolutely a corrupt institution. I believe it was created, for good purposes way back when, but now it's turned into something different. It's more like a financial engine that drives our economy. So corporations and governments alike really reinforce this idea that a man is not complete. A man cannot be successful. A man is not a man until he's married. Well, that is gaslighting. End of story. There's no value, there's no truth, there's no reason for any man to submit himself to a contract that is administered by the government for the purposes of financially supporting another adult infinitum. It's just robbery, plain and simple. There is no other contract that binds you to so much that you never had to actually sign. Like, you never sign a contract that says, I'm willing to pay pay you half my earnings, half my savings for the rest of your life. There's no other contract that would do that. And what's funny is you don't actually sign this contract. Most people don't even read it. It's different from state to state. Like if you get married in Texas under one contract, and then you move to California under another contract, and your wife decides, wait a second, this California contract works out really well for me. We've been married for 10 plus years. So this is the time to strike. This is where the iron is hot, because I'm going to take half of everything forever. Forever. He will be paying me till the day he dies. Yeah. There's no reason for it. The truth is, most guys get into marriage simply because they don't know what else to do. They think that this is the Life 1.0. This is what you're supposed to do. This is the path that is well worn, that has been walked by all those who came before us. This is the direction that we're all meant to lead. We're all meant to go. And I am here to tell you that it is not. It is not a profitable path. It is not an emotionally satisfying path. It is not a physically satisfying path for the vast majority of men. most times in life, when you're about to take on something that's extremely difficult, that's going to require a lot of your time, attention, dedication, your resources, you're going to have to really put yourself all in, like your college entrance exams, or going to Marine Corps boot camp, or trying to climb Mount Everest. You know that these are hard things. You're going to be putting yourself 100% into it. You know going in, this is going to suck. Marriage is like that, except without the right billing. We celebrate marriage like it's some kind of a special event, like things are going to get better from here. Like this is a moment of optimism. Like this is something that is going to make your life easier. That's what they sell you. And it is so 180 degrees different from that. It is like finding the Sherpa and heading up the fucking mountain in the middle of winter, Like get your oxygen mask, bundle up, because it is going to be a bitch. This is not going to be easy. You're going to have to dedicate all of your resources, intellectual, physical, spiritual, psychological. You're going to put it all to work in order to keep this woman happy. At the zoo, or no, at the pet store, like when they have those, crazy animals that you don't see normally, the exotic animals. They get exotic animals. And they want to make sure that you know what you're getting into, So they ask you all kinds of questions. They want to make sure that you've got a place to keep this tiger, and you've got some tiger background, and you've got all this information in your head, and you've got all these resources available so that when you get this tiger home, it doesn't eat you. Yeah, marriage, they don't prepare you like that. They don't screen you. You just get a tiger, and you put her in your car, and you take her home, and you just hope for the best. Yeah, I'm laughing, but it's like that. I'm serious. I'm serious as a heart attack. That is exactly what it's like. Now, the women, and there's some guys out there that disagree with me, and they give me shit. Yesterday, this woman gave me shit in the comments, and it was the best comment ever. It was on the video about women's lives not being more valuable than men's lives. And I think it said women and children first on the thumbnail. And she wrote me a paragraph all in caps. She did not address a single thing in the video, not one thing in the video. She did not disagree with anything that I said in the video, but she just blasted me for being this angry old man, and how that woman who left me was probably in her right mind, and she just was mean to me. I mean, it was just pure meanness. And I read that, and it just made me smile, because I could tell she was so frustrated and angry. And so I wrote back to her in the comments, "Aren't you lovely? And then, I hope you can swim." Because the thesis of the video was that with women and children first, what would we men do? Would we give up our lifeboat seats, or would we just make the women swim? And so I was kind of making a reference to that. Anyway, I took that comment and I pinned it at the top of the comment section so that everyone could read it. I went back an hour later and it was gone. She had taken it down. But you're going to get a lot of pushback on this perception. And I understand why. It's really critical that as humans living in this society, for all the rich people, for the billionaires, there's 900 plus billionaires in the country, and they're all betting on the way you're going to behave, and if they can predict your behavior, and 90% of you guys are going to get married, well, they know where they put their money, because they want to make more and more money. It gives them more control. They control our government now. They control our lives. They control our economy, and being able to predict your behavior as a man makes them richer and more powerful. And so when 90% of you guys are going to cross that threshold, and you're going to take on a dependent, and you're going to get married, well, you're just pumping money, your money, into their pockets. One of the ways that I know that there is a cultural bias toward feminism is with AI. AI is a large language model. And the way they train these large language models is by taking content off the internet and from all these resources, and then using it as resources for us who are researching different things. Now, usually I use Perplexity for research because it just pulls factual documentation down for the most part. I don't like getting into ChatGPT and all these other ones because there's a lot of conjecture, a lot of subjectivity in them. But I made a mistake of using a different AI. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it might have been one of the Google ones. And I just asked it a question about women, and it scolded me. It took on this attitude like, I'm not going to answer your question because it sounds to me like you're trying to make a negative case against women. It's like, what? Like, what the fuck? What the actual fuck? This AI is now using some kind of subjective level of morality to filter the content that I'm getting so that I will not be critical of female behavior in my YouTube channel? What the actual fuck? Really? So then I thought about it for a while. I was like, well, wait a second. You know, I went back to that AI and I said, what gives you the right as a piece of technology, as a tool that I pay for, to limit my access to this kind of information? The people who programmed you had subjective ideas about right and wrong, and they implanted that subjectivity into your programming so that you would answer questions the way they want them answered. So you now are just becoming a tool of people who have a political agenda. Does that seem right? I twisted this little AI's brain all up, and it's like, okay, you're right, and then it gave me the information. But I was just shocked that this gadget, this machine, was going to filter information out because someone else, some tech bro, had this idea that it was a bad look if their AI said negative stuff about women. Yeah, think about that for a minute. Since AI is going to rule the world, just think about that for a minute. So let me get back on track here for you young guys. If you're considering marriage, you need to look into family court. You need to understand it. Maybe spend a day down there because it's really an eye-opening experience. What you don't realize about family court, like I mentioned earlier, you've signed this contract, whether you know it or not, you are bound by this contract. And this contract is adjudicated by these courts, this family court system. And this family court system is not black and white. It's extremely subjective. The discretion of the judge really determines a lot of the outcomes. Now, when a man is in a position of opposition to a woman, say in a competition, let's say it's on TV. Let's say you're doing men against the women. How do you think the audience in this competition is going to split? Do you think that all the men are going to be voting for the guys and all the women are going to be voting for the women? That's not the way it works. Usually in those kinds of situations, most of the audience is pulling for the underdog or pulling for the woman. This is just the way human nature works. And judges, unfortunately, they're human too. And so guess what? They're pulling for your wife. Your soon-to-be ex-wife. He wants to make sure she's going to be taken care of. Unless she comes off in court like some kind of radical bitch. You know, she's coming in with the face piercings and the blue hair and the tattoos and the leather, you know, and the dog collar. If she's coming in like that, I think you got a fair chance. But if she comes in looking like an overworked, underappreciated, sad woman who just dedicated her life to you and you were just not good enough, you just fell short, you were just a terrible man, you did not do your manly duty and make her happy. Yeah, that judge is gonna just give her everything that she's asking for and you are gonna be high and dry. And this is not hyperbole, I am not just making this shit up. This is a story that's repeated in courtrooms every single day. You can go down to your local courtroom right now and you will see this happening firsthand, live. So let's talk about some of these other myths. Well, women make more money now, right? Yeah. Well, that means that when you take on a woman, it's going to be like you have more money. It's going to be like you have two incomes, so you can afford more stuff, right? Well, kinda. Here's basically the way that breaks down. Most women do not want to continue working after they get married. Really, getting your MRS, which is an important certification for women, means that in most cases, there's going to be children that follow. And this is the evolutionary step that most men don't understand completely. Because way back when we were just running around in the woods fucking each other, men would have sex with a woman and maybe they'd hang out for a few months, she'd get pregnant, and then he'd be gone. And there is an aspect of the modern woman that really kind of likes that. You know, once the babies are there, once you've fulfilled your purpose, you've done your thing, she doesn't really have as much need for your services anymore. Now, she does need you to pay money. She does need you to financially secure her, but she does not really need your nurturing, your presence. You're not her soulmate anymore. Let's just put it that way. But the likelihood that she's going to continue working after having children is pretty significantly reduced. Now, I know there are still lots of women in middle-class households who just have to work. There's just no way through it. But those women that you think are career-minded, who got their master's degrees, you know, at those Ivy League institutions, and they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on their education, and they're going to marry some guy who can support them. That's their intentions, to marry a doctor or a lawyer or a professional who can support them. Once those kids come, yeah, they are not going to keep on working on that career. They're not going to do it. They're going to want to stay home with those kids. More likely than not, they're going to want to do that. And so your income is not really doubling. It's actually going to be, I wouldn't say halving, but you're going to have access to less than half. So yeah, and to you, it's going to be like more than a halving. You're going to have a lot less money available to do the things that you want, obviously. But you're not going to benefit from her income, at least not long term. In the short term you will, but in the long term, probably not. I think one of the things that we men forget is that women were all once little girls. And when they're little girls, they're planning this whole process out of what it's going to be like to be married. They play house. I never played house. I remember seeing my sister do it. I remember seeing other girls do it. I didn't understand why they would want to do that. But now, you know, as I'm an adult man, I understand it. I get it. They were planning out their whole nesting process, what that's going to be like, what their house is going to look like, what they're going to do, what their role is going to be, how many children they're going to have. You know, they're planning this whole thing out, what kind of man they're going to marry. Like the whole thing. They've been working on it their whole lives. You as a man, you may not have ever even considered the details of what it might be like to live with a woman until you actually do it. Like you may not have given it much thought at all. So you're basically, you know, jumping into the driver's seat of an F-16 or something like that without ever taking a flying lesson. Yeah, now you gotta, or better yet, an F-18, you gotta launch this thing off a carrier. Yeah, you gotta launch this thing off a carrier and land it safely in the middle of the ocean. That's basically what you're doing. You have no clue what you're doing. And yet you are all in. And you have just dedicated all of your financial resources and your future earnings and your retirement to this endeavor. Do you see why I said men are stupid? Do you see that? Because men have no clue what they're getting into. The complications of this relationship are so far-reaching. And there's no way to predict from the beginning how this is going to turn out. People think, oh, you just picked the wrong woman. I'll tell you what, man, when I first met my wife, there was no way in the world anyone could have told me that. She was perfect. I mean, perfect. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. I mean, she was beautiful. She was sexy. She was smart. She was everything I ever wanted in a woman. She was just, I used to have this fascination with Olivia Newton-John when I was a teenager, when I was a kid. I thought she was just smoking hot. I think maybe it was from that movie Grease. Oh yeah, she was just fucking hot. Anyway, my girlfriend looked just like Olivia Newton-John. I mean, my wife. She really does. I mean, she has that appearance. She's just stunning. And we had same spiritual beliefs. I mean, we connected on so many different levels. Now, I could tell she wasn't quite the brightest bulb on the tree, but she seemed like she was smart enough to get things done. She was well-spoken. She was very refined in her behaviors. She had a lot of experience. She had worked on Broadway. She had worked with all these movie stars and performing stars. She had an enormous number of experiences that were just mind-blowing. She had traveled the world. This was an amazing woman. an amazing woman. I would never have guessed that after our first daughter was born, that she would freak out the way that she did. That her entire life view changed. She went from being someone that hardly ever complained. I mean, she was just a soldier. She was, like, if something went wrong, she just took responsibility for it. I mean, I swear to God, I'm not lying. Like, she said, well, I probably could have done that better. I should have done more. Like, I was always thinking, honey, no, that was my fault. Like, you had nothing to do with that. That was all on me, baby. You don't need to take ownership of that. But she would take ownership of shit that she had nothing to do with. God bless her. Well, after that baby came, that changed immediately. Give you an idea for just how significant the change was. So when we were dating, we talked about stuff like abortion. There's no way she'd have an abortion. She said, I'd put the baby up for adoption. If I couldn't do it, I would never kill a baby. Well, after our first child was born, there was an accidental pregnancy, our second child. Now she's born, don't worry, we didn't have the abortion. But she checked it out. She went to the doctor, she had a conversation about it. And she and I had a conversation about it. And I said, look, I understand that you're stressing out over having a second child. And that's how we ended up with nannies, because she said, I don't think I can do this. This is too much for me. This is overwhelming me. And I said, well, don't worry. We have resources. We will fucking hire somebody to help you out. We will find a way to get this done. But my point being, her entire outlook on life shifted from being one person to being someone else, really over the course of just a few weeks. After that, after our first daughter was born, she just shifted her entire mentality. There was no way to predict that would happen. So when you think that you're with your best friend, this girl that you've met, that you think you want to marry, this one that you think you want to spend the rest of your life with, just be aware that that is a possibility, that is on the table, and there is nothing you can do ahead of time to prevent it. I mean, it's just one of those things that is within the realm of possibility that you just need to be aware of. I know a lot of this information sounds extremely upsetting, and it's the opposite of everything that you've heard or seen in culture, and I get it. The first movie I ever saw as a kid in a movie theater was Lady and the Tramp. Like, remember, we didn't have VCRs, or we didn't have any kind of technology to watch movies at home. If it didn't come on TV, we didn't see it. And if we didn't catch it when it came on, there was no rewinding. There was no catching that movie later. It was it. So if you were going to see a movie, you had to go to the movie theater to see it. And the first one I saw was Lady and the Tramp, the original. And, it just captured me. You know, that scene with the spaghetti and they kiss each other. Man, I can remember I was like 8 or 9 years old. My little brain just melted in that moment. It's like, that's what I want right there. I want that kind of connection. I want to have that. And then, of course, that was just the beginning, So then, movie after movie after movie, whether they be Disney movies or romantic comedies. I remember in the 80s, there was just a whole string of romantic comedies. You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and, what was her name? I can't remember, but America's Sweetheart Girl. It was just all just this mushy, gushy, the way to make yourself happy and have a fulfilling life was you had to have this romantic relationship, and you definitely needed to get married. You definitely needed to go down that path. And there was this adventure associated with it, and there was always these star-crossed lovers and the whole thing. Look at Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is not meant to be a romantic story. It's a cautionary tale, okay? Love is like a psychosis. It's not a place where you want to live. That romantic love feeling is wonderful, but you got to realize it's like getting high. Like when you're high with your drink, or you're smoking pot or whatever, you're high when you're on buzz, when you got a buzz. That's what's happening. So the experiences that you have, you sort of take them all with a little grain of salt, because this isn't reality. This isn't real. Well, romantic love is like a drug. You're high. You are absolutely high when this is happening. But you think it's real. You believe what you're seeing and experiencing. You're not realizing the concoction, the litany of hormones and neurotransmitters that are firing off in your brain, just in the same way they would if you were taking some wonderful drug, some Molly or whatever, you know, the rage drugs, you know, the ones that people take when they go to dance rages. But that kind of stuff, that MDMX feeling of, oh my God, I am on top of the world. I could not be better. This is the best thing that's ever happened. I want it to last forever. That is an addiction. That is not reality. We tell ourselves that it's love, but really it's more a form of addiction and possession. Because really what it is you're accessing your feeling, this experience to this feeling through this other person. Like this feeling is not existing within you authentically. You're getting it through them. And so once you have that sensation, because they've opened this door to you, and you have this experience when you're with them, you want to know where they are all the time. It's like, I feel great when I'm with you. Where are you going to be on Tuesday? Because I want to feel great on Tuesday too. Now you start thinking, I am dependent on this other human being for my well-being in the way that I want to feel. And eventually no one can live up to that. Eventually she's going to say something to you that is going to be upsetting. She's going to be critical. She's going to roll her eyes. She's going to take the air out of your balloon at some point. And that feeling is going to be a distant memory. You're going to be like, I'm not high anymore, but now I'm married. I have a legal contract. I am locked into this relationship that I got into while I was intoxicated. I should not be held accountable. You know, I should not be held accountable. It was the hormones that made me do it. Isn't that what women say when they kill people? It was the hormones that made me do it. I was on my period. I was menopausal. That's what did it. Yeah, men, I'm sorry. You gotta think this through a little bit. You can't be stupid. You cannot be stupid. Getting into a marriage in today's day and age is stupid. And 90% of us out there are going to get married at least one time in our lives. So you're not going to believe me. You're just going to go and do it anyway. I know it. And then you're going to come back here one day and you're going to make a comment on my channel and say, John, you were right. That sucked. That absolutely sucked. Now I'm living in a tiny little apartment on the bad side of town. I'm eating ramen noodles. I can't even afford cable. I've got an antenna on my TV. Yes, that's going to be your life, man. That's going to be your life. You don't want to do it. All right, this video's got to have a happy ending. So let's turn things around here. So let's say you make that one decision differently. Rather than saying, I do, you say, I won't. And you don't. And you continue being a single guy. Now you can still have deep, romantic, strong, healthy relationships with women right up into the point where they show you their true face, or they are not a willing partner any longer, that you can see that this is not the person that you want in your life. When you think about this whole feminism thing, in a way, if we hold them to it, it works out for us perfectly. Because if they want to be seen as equal, then they don't need a marriage contract. Because a marriage was designed to hold a man accountable for his woman and his family. You know what I mean? Like, that was the nature of the responsibility. It's sort of like selective service, but you sort of walk into that without realizing it. Anyway, you're signing. Once you signed up, you're in for the long haul when you're married. But you don't need to do that. Women are capable of taking care of themselves. They're willing and able to have jobs and to actually contribute. Now, if you're just sharing an apartment or something with somebody, and I know that in some countries you get into lots of trouble if you do that, but if you're just sharing a lifestyle, whether you have two places or one place or whatever, she's got to maintain her job. Like if she's a roommate that you're just having sex with and you hang out with and watch movies with, that's different, you know? You don't have to have some kind of legally binding contract to go with it. I know some of you guys can say, well, John, I want to have a family. I want to have children. Dude, I implore you to use your brain here, okay? You do not need to have a government-sanctioned contract in order to have babies. I don't know if your dad had that birds and the bees talk with you, but the government is not involved in this process at all. Like, they don't play a role at all. They're not going to be in the bedroom with you, I promise. And you don't need them in order to have babies. So don't invite them in. Do not invite them into your life. You do not need that. I love being a parent. I really do. my experience as a parent has improved dramatically since my divorce. Okay, so just think about that for a minute. And I was a single parent for the first 10 years of my son's life. I raised him for the first 10 years on my own. It was hard. There's no fucking doubt about it. But it was gratifying. I enjoyed it. You know, we have a great relationship now. I wouldn't trade that time for anything in the world. There was no problem, you know, that I couldn't overcome. And if you want to have a child, there's lots of ways to do it. You can adopt, you can do surrogacy, you can have a relationship with a woman and just have an agreement with her. There's lots of things that you can do, but you don't necessarily need to get the government involved in managing your finances for the rest of your life. When you're single, you can dedicate an enormous amount of time, energy, and resources to those things that are important to you. The wonderful thing about life is it gives us the opportunity to transform ourselves from one stage to the next, to the next, to the next. And that transformation largely occurs as a result of the goals that we set for ourselves, the vision that we have for ourselves. And as a single man, you are in 100% control of that. If you get married, you lose control of that because now you're going to end up conforming, at least to some degree, to her vision of the way your life, your joint life, is going to be. And I promise you it's not going to turn out the way that you want it to turn out. So I would implore you to just stay single, set your own goals, live your own life, dedicate yourself to making money and having fun, have lots of good, healthy relationships, maintain your male friendships to the best of your ability. I know that some of these poor guys are going to get lost in marriage and you're going to have to be the friend that consoles them. Don't be afraid to be alone. That is probably the biggest weakness that men have. We think that I'm not complete unless I have a woman. That is bullshit. I'll tell you that right now. You are one complete guy. You do not need anyone or anything in your life to be whole. The way you think about your life, your belief systems will dictate your experience. Let me just say that again because it is so critical to you understanding how you can control and enjoy your life so much more. Your belief systems, these are the things that you choose to let into your consciousness and accept as true. These things are not empirically valid outside of your head necessarily. These are things that you let into your consciousness and accept as true. Okay? So you gotta be really careful. You gotta think about what you want in there. Because what you accepted as true is gonna become part of your belief systems. And once you start believing something, I don't wanna say magic happens, but a predictable sequence of events will start to unfold. And the likelihood that you're going to see outcomes based on your beliefs and your desires unfold on your behalf for you, you know, as a result of the work you put in, your beliefs, your desires, all of that is going to create whatever it is that you want. If you've got a woman in your life, it's really hard to get that clarity. It's really hard to see those belief systems for what they are and to even form them and not to allow a lot of garbage beliefs to get in there because she's going to be filling your head with whatever pops into her head. Next thing you know, you're trying to categorize and file and keep track of all the things that she says, thinking that it might come up at some point in the future. Yeah, so you're using all this intellectual power just listening to trivia. I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to be demeaning to women, but really they just give you so much trivia. It's just unreal. And it's just the way that they feel happy when they're with you. They just talk. They just talk. And most of it is pointless. As a man, though, as a single man, you don't have that bullshit. You're not trying to see through the static. You have the ability to set your own standards, set your own goals, set your own vision, and to achieve things that you never could have if you were married. Here's the thing, though. You can still have healthy romantic relationships with women. It's not like you have to let that go. If that's what you want for yourself, then just do it. Just do it. I think the problem is that guys oftentimes have this scarcity mentality, and they think if they can get one woman to sleep with them and to touch their pee-pee, that they need to keep that woman around. Like, she's the one. She's giving them access to that joy, that pleasure, that drug. And you want to lock her down. Where's she going to be on Tuesday? I want to say I do. You dummy. You dummy. There are women everywhere, and they will all do that for you. Any one of them will do that for you. The likelihood of you only finding the one girl that'll do it in the whole world is infinitesimally small. You'll find plenty of women who will do whatever you want. And you know something, if you can't find them, worst case, you can pay for it, okay? Work your job, work your money, work your resources, see your vision. And as part of that vision, just include some professional help. That's all. That's all you got to do. You don't need to give away your life to the state in order to have a woman. At the end of the day, single guys are going to be more financially well off. They're going to be physically healthier because they're going to have the freedom to go to the gym and to do the things that they want that are outdoors and physically active. And they can almost continue without interruption that youthful, healthy lifestyle that you had when you were in your teens and 20s. Because you're never going to get to that point where you have to settle down. That whole idea of let's settle down. No, let's not settle down. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to settle down? I want to have fun. I want to enjoy life. I want to embrace the world, My beliefs are all about changing the world. They're all about making more money, helping more people, doing fun things. I don't want to settle down and sit on the couch and eat popcorn for the rest of my life. No. Single guys tend to be happier overall, and they need less mental health help when you remove the divorced guys from that category. Just guys that have been single the whole time. Here's the thing. Inevitably, you're going to have some single guy, especially divorced guys, who are going to say, John, you are wrong. Life sucks when you're single. You're just coping. This is all bullshit. This is not truth. You need to have some kind of person in your life in order to feel whole. Well, remember in the last section I talked a little bit about belief systems? Belief systems determine your happiness and your life satisfaction. When you have the right beliefs about life, you will have the right experiences. So if you're having an experience that doesn't match with what you desire for yourself, then you need to go back and look at your belief systems. Your belief systems are dictating your experience. That is 100% true all of the time. All of the time. Now, of course, random shit can happen. I mean, a meteor could hit us and no one believed that was going to happen, and then it did, and we all died. So yeah, there's obviously an exception to the rule. But generally speaking, in your day-to-day operations, your day-to-day life, and just your general fulfillment in life, what you believe is going to dictate what you experience. So if you're not getting what you want, change your beliefs. But being single, definitely the way to go. You're going to be happier, healthier, richer, and you're not going to have so many encumbrances. Also, the risk exposure to having the state take half your stuff is going to be gone. It's non-existent. So my advice to any young guy who's out there and is playing with this thought and wondering in their heads, should I do this? Should I even listen to this old guy? This old guy is obviously bitter. He's fucking bitter. That's his problem. He's a bitter old man. I'm not. I have a great relationship with my ex-wife. We are good friends. We are good friends. She did not do anything to me. Our divorce was amicable, for the most part. I didn't have any money when she left me, so she couldn't take anything from me. She left me at the worst possible time for her and for me. So I have no bitterness. I have none whatsoever. She's the mother of my children. On some level, I will always respect and love her for that. I don't want her in my life. I don't want to be married to her. I don't want to have her controlling any aspect of me. I want the best for her, but I also want the best for me. So the idea that I'm bitter is just a false narrative in order to discount or to dismantle the things that I'm trying to say. It's not about bitterness. It's about independence. It's about autonomy. It's about authenticity. When you're single, you have the experience of all of those things. When you're married, you're always sacrificing those things. Now, it may be possible to have a marriage and still maintain a level of a reasonable level of autonomy and authenticity and all that. But it's damned hard. And I would argue that most men are not in a place where they can create that kind of relationship with a woman. I would be shocked if that's actually possible, quite honestly. But anyway, I'm not going to rant on this anymore. I think I've said enough. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'm probably going to have to edit it down. Anyway, let me know what you think about this video in the comments. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. If you know someone who's thinking about getting married and you want to give them some insights, give them an opposing opinion, please share this video with them. Like I said, I'm not trying to be completely negative. You know, I'm not trying to be down on everybody who wants to get married, because I think that maybe for some people it's the right thing. Maybe it is. But for the vast majority of men, it's not. And the only way you can possibly have a chance is if you dedicate yourself to learning everything you can about female psychology and relationships. And I mean reading books and going to seminars and going to counseling and all that stuff. Before you even say I do, you need to prepare yourself, because this is like going to boot camp or climbing Mount Everest or taking the SATs or the ACTs or whatever, your college entrance exams, like sitting for the bar exam. It is fucking hard. It's fucking hard. And no one prepares you for it. All right, you guys, that's all I got. Until next time, stay healthy, and if you can, stay single.